What?
If you are a horror fan who thinks variety is the spice of life, then you may like The Campus. We are talking about The Campus, directed and written by Jason Horton, and stars Rachel Amanda Bryant as Morgan. Now, the story on the surface is very reminiscent from the recent horror movie Happy Death Day, which of course you could say was inspired by Groundhog Day. So it's a kind of another kind of take on the repeating the kind of the same day over and over again with different things, but it does it slightly differently with this movie. Essentially, it focuses on this character called Morgan, who is this young woman who we find out is ultimately inherited a curse from her father. Her father made a deal with the devil and has died, basically, so the debt falls to this young woman, Morgan. Now, she's unaware of this initially, and ultimately has to go through a series of trials, and she ultimately faces a variety of different kind of like horror scenarios, and all ultimately that end in her death, and then she kind of has to restart the day again. Now, unlike, say, Groundhog Day and Happy Death Day, the scenarios are all different. So, you know, you'll have things like ghosts, you'll have zombies, demons, you'll have a virus kind of situation. So the threats are all very different. So although she kind of starts off at the same place in the day again, the threat is always going to be unique. So as to kind of why that actually happens, I won't kind of go into too many spoilers and stuff here, but ultimately there is a reason for it, etc. So what do we think of The Campus? I have to say, even though this is very reminiscent of the kind of the movies like Groundhog Day, like Happy Death Day, I do think it still has a kind of original concept, and for the kind of the low budget movie that it is, has massive ambition. So I do appreciate this. I also think Rachel Amanda Bryant, who plays the kind of the lead character Morgan, is very good. I think she does a great job of really kind of selling this kind of a kind of woman who doesn't really know what's going on, but doesn't take much crap either, and she has some quite kind of nice kind of line delivery, and her reactions to kind of these certain situations are actually quite fun, and she's quite a good sort of character here. To be honest with you, there's not really many other characters that have a great deal of screen time. She really does carry this kind of movie on her own, and I think she does a pretty good job here. So that was all quite good. And the movie is fairly gory. There are kind of quite a lot of blood and kind of like gore effects here. And obviously, because we have so many different types of threats, obviously, like I've mentioned at the top of the video, it is quite a variety, a smorgasbord of supernatural threats. So, what doesn't work? The biggest thing here is the budget. The budget of this movie is low. I mean, let me put it like this. The effects of this movie are straight out of The Evil Dead. Now, I'm talking about the early 1980s Evil Dead, not the remake. So the budget really doesn't have the means to do very fantastic kind of like visual effects. The makeup, I would say, is okay, but there's some kind of really dodgy video effects here that really do look quite crappy, I've got to say. But even the practical makeup effects, although better, still do look on the kind of the cheaper side. So the whole production has a very kind of like a low budget feel to it, which some people won't mind. I will say that. It's going to be, obviously there is a kind of a low budget horror movie crowd out there, and I certainly won't kind of critique a movie for a low budget, because I do love some of them. But the production value is kind of on the lower side. I've got to say, I think some of the writing of the character as well was a little weak. I mean, Morgan never really sort of tries to kind of like get away from this kind of situation, and she just seems to run in and out of this particular building time and time again. And you feel like you're kind of treading water a little bit. I would have liked to have seen maybe her try and do different things rather than she essentially tries to do the same thing in every scenario. So even though the threat's different, she more or less tries to kind of do the same type of actions in every scenario. So I would have liked to have seen them maybe move away from this one particular location and do some different things and kind of see what, you know, what other things they can incorporate into this film movie. But that may well be a factor in regards to the budget as well. I do feel sometimes the camera meanders and there are scenes that just kind of like spin their wheels for an unnecessary amount of time, and it maybe spends a little bit too much time in flashbacks as well, which I didn't think was necessary. So it does kind of like dip in and your interest levels will kind of like you know, go up and down throughout this movie, because I feel it sometimes outstays its welcome in kind of certain scenes here and there. I feel the editing is slightly choppy. If I'm honest, there are some kind of quite uncomfortable edits, and it ends up being a little bit jarring here and there. The music, I've got to say, going back to positive, I kind of quite liked it. It reminds me of Big Trouble in Little China, but it's more or less the same kind of sort of score throughout the movie, but I kind of liked it. It's nice kind of like 80s style kind of synthy music, which I found quite appreciative. So it's a mix of kind of like the original Evil Dead, Happy Death Day, and with the score of kind of Big Trouble in Little China, with a kind of likeable kind of lead character, but the story is a little uneven. I feel it kind of runs, it feels like it's running out of steam in certain parts, but then it kind of picks up. But there is quite a lot going on. If you've ever seen the movie Rage War, which was released in the US, or I suppose it was actually called The Dungeon Master in the US and released in the UK, it's Rage War, I couldn't help but think of that movie, which is essentially an anthology film, but has a kind of a through journey with the sort of same character. So it kind of reminded me of that. That's probably more so than any other film I would probably put this in, because the effects are probably similar in regards to the kind of level of effects work we have here. So if you've ever seen Dungeon Master, or Rage War as it was known in the UK, then this is a very kind of similar movie mixed with elements of Happy Death Day. Overall, I've got to say, I appreciated the kind of the ambition of this movie, and I appreciate the fact that it does do really try to have so many elements in it. Although I don't think it's entirely successful, I have to say it still kind of kept my interest. And even though there was clear problems, I did like the fact that these guys really do have the kind of the gusto to make quite a ballsy movie. So I'll give it a 6 out of 10. Have you seen it? What did you think of it? Leave me a comment and I'll look forward to seeing you next time. Bye for now.